Welcome to this sort and build with Strick's Bricks. I'm Strick. I'm gonna be fixing this lifeguard truck here, and then we'll probably get to some sorting tonight. There's some news that dropped earlier today, kind of yesterday, about the smart bricks, and I know a lot of people had feelings about them, so I wanted to just kind of relay how I thought about them. So at first, like most of the adult community, I was kind of negative. I saw the prices and what some of the sets looked like, and it definitely had me concerned, that one, I would, consider buying some of the stuff and it would just be, too expensive out of the price range. And then two, I'm actually gonna, this is kind of cool detail, but my kids just keep knocking this off, so I'm gonna mod this a little bit to have this stay on here a little bit better while I'm doing this. That's what I'm working on. So I was feeling pretty negative about it, and just like, why would they do this? It kind of goes against what makes Lego great, which is just tactile, no really gimmicks or bells and whistles. Sometimes it's always exciting to get like a light brick and a sound brick, and that's kind of where I've come around on it a bit. I mean, I think they could have delivered a light and sound brick for a lot less money and probably more extensible. Like I saw a few comments on I forget if it was Brickset or another site that I was kind of reading all the comments on. I might have been Reddit. But somebody was mentioning like, yeah, they kind of abandoned power functions. They've abandoned Mindstorms, which have a much bigger following. I'm gonna just switch to red here just because I got some on the top there, and should be a little sturdier. And then they've just kind of abandoned those lines, and they had a lot more extensibility, a lot more of a fan following around them. And they could have just gone that route and done something like that, and brought one of those lines back, or just kind of done something in that vein. So I understand that that side of it. I definitely put some lights on here. Maybe let's do some trans red might be cool there. Can't really see that. Maybe see that down there. Some trans red right up here. Keep it down in the light. Got to get the light situation figured out down here. Just really worked on this setup, this new setup I've got now, so I can actually make some of these videos. I'll have to kind of show what the wall looks like here, but I've got all these little IKEA bins kind of here on these Scattis pegboards, and I can just like quickly grab, and I've kind of color coded them, as you can probably start to see, between warm, cool, and then black and white. And they've kind of that's kind of all over the wall. Maybe I'll just throw a picture in here real quick of what it looks like, what it's starting to look like. So it's still work in progress. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with this kind of this exact setup, but I like the look of it and everything. So sorry, I'm kind of rambling. Getting back to like one peg off, or one stud off there, plate. So getting back to the smart bricks, yeah, I'm trying to come around. I've got young kids, and they definitely appreciate when, especially like Duplo, we play a lot with the Duplo trucks. I'm liking that now. It's looking a little bit better. You know what? That doesn't really work on the side now. So they like lights and sounds with Lego and Duplo, and anytime, even like other toys, like when it lights up and it makes sound, it's always, it just adds like an extra element of play. The one thing I will knock about it is like very little information was shared, at least in that initial press release, and it seems like what they shared at Comic-Con. They're kind of a little veiled about the exact technology and how it worked, and how do you make custom sounds? Can you make custom sounds? Is the app required? So maybe by the time you're watching this, like all that information's come out already, but at least on first read and first glance, I'm using two different yellows here, but my kids are not going to care. They were really shy on details, almost to like, typically like when you see a tech release like that and it's shy on details, it means that they're kind of trying to hide behind the tech a little bit, and just kind of hype it up, marketing hype. I don't know if that's the case here. That's looking better now. I think we can go with that. My kids will be happy with that. That guy's a little sturdier and fixed. I really didn't love how they did. I mean, this thing is intended for kids. It's like $20. I think it's 7 and up, and my kids are a little bit younger, but I mean, that's like a pretty simple set. And yet they decided to like make that back so breakable. The back was so breakable. That kind of drives me nuts sometimes when they don't think about the breakability of some of this stuff and they go straight for aesthetic, but I digress. So, I mean, kind of talking about kids, I'm kind of excited to see, really what it looks like. Maybe not excited, but intrigued. Like I'm intrigued. I hope that they put something compelling out there that people will want, especially for those price points. I mean, some of those Star Wars sets I saw. I know there's already the Star Wars kind of premium that you're paying on stuff, but yeah, I forget the exact prices. I could pull them up here. Maybe I will. But yeah, just really expensive sets. So I don't know if they're going to get the fan base that they really want for that. All right, this is done. I think I'm going to move over to some sorting. So I'll be right back. I have more thoughts on the smart bricks. So I'll probably talk about those and just investing. So I'll be right back in a second with a big old box of bricks. All right, we're back. I've got my big old bin of bricks here, and we're just going to start sorting out. All right, so I've got a lot of, you can't even really see, but all across my table here, I've got all my sorting bins. Maybe I'll just take this down for a second. So I got all my sorting bins here, and we're just gonna be sorting. So kind of wrapping up my thoughts on the smart bricks. Yeah, like I said, I'm mostly just curious. I'm curious at this point. We'll see what it looks like when it comes out. And yeah, I'm interested to see if my kids are interested in them or not. That's a lot of interested, but yeah, I wanted to move on to another subject that's kind of been on my mind related to Lego, and that is Lego investing. I know, you know, on this channel, not this one, but at least like the Toy Talk Guys original channel, that was a big part of my content for a long time, was investing videos. Still, I mean, I'm still making investing videos, and that was my relationship with Lego for a while. Was mostly looking at, of course, a hobby. I mean, you see me sorting all these things out. Like, it's definitely a hobby that I love, but also from an investing standpoint, it kind of just, I don't know how to put it. It really just, it helped me justify, I guess, the hobby, knowing that, you know, the thing that I was interested in carried value, carried weight, and I could always sell, you know, I could always sell my collection at some point if I wanted to, and, you know, get my money back in, you know, one way or another. And you know, when it's a long-term investment, you know, you just kind of get sucked into that world of thinking about it as an investment. So all to say that I don't know if my personal tune has changed, or well, I know my personal tune has changed on it. I could talk about that, but I think the market itself has changed a little bit. That's like a stickered piece. I can't stand stickered pieces. This is someone else's Lego that they so nicely gave to us. A bunch of friend sets. If you could name that set, that'd be pretty impressive that comes from. I don't really know any of the friend sets, and I won't even really know if you're right, but if you want to throw it in the comments, go for it. Somebody will probably know if you're correct or not. Anyway, what was I talking about? It's really hard to sort and talk at the same time, and you could probably only see like half of what I'm doing here. So anyway, I'm still here. So anyway, Lego investing. I have this new setup now, and I really gotta get my bearings where everything is. I'm getting all turned around. I used to do it on the other side of the room, and now it's a lot more challenging. I'll start to get in a better flow, but I'm trying to have a conversation and do this at the same time, and it's trickier than I thought it would be. But anyway, on investing, sorry, I'm like killing you guys with the suspense on the investing. I personally am like out. I'm not doing it anymore. It's not going to be something that I'm really spending time on, spending time with. I'm actually selling off most of the stuff that I still have kind of sitting around. At this point, I've really dwindled everything down to just the stuff I want to collect for myself and for my kids one day to build and play with them. But there's even pieces in there where I'm like, you know, they're not really showing interest in this particular thing at this point, and I don't know if we will, and if they really care about it, like, it's not the end of the world if we don't have a Lego set about it. You know, going through the sorting process, I've definitely realized just how much I have, like the bulk of what I have, and how much of a challenge it is to even just sort and navigate and just stay on top of it. You know, it becomes work after a while. Something that's supposed to be, you know, all joy and all fun. So I'm kind of like okay getting rid of some of the stuff that I was hanging on to. We're gonna put that one. That's kind of a weird one. That's like the I know where that can go. Where's that going? Gotta find that bin. There's some stuff here that I haven't fully taken apart yet. Try to do that on camera so it's a little more interesting. I'm just staring at a bunch of bricks. So anyway, what was I talking about? This is really hard to do at the same time. Investing, sorry. Investing. So I'm pretty much out of that game. I am selling off. I actually just sold my Barb minifigure that's from Stranger Things. That minifigure I just sold. I made a little bit of profit on it. I'm sure it's going to go up even more, depending on how the show does. Quick aside for Stranger Things, the show, not a huge fan of the ending of that show, or I'd actually be curious to rewatch that show and see if the whole show was kind of like that. I even had to look it up. Like, are they going for camp? Like, are they going for like a campy feel, or is it just like bad acting? And it seems like you can make the argument for both. Some of it is camp, and then some of it is just like, oh, they're actually going for it here, and it's just not landing because these guys maybe are not the best actors. I'm not saying everybody in the show is a bad actor, but some of those kids, they definitely made better kid actors than grown adult actors. And maybe it's I don't want to put it all on them. Maybe it's the dialogue is clunky and bad or whatever. But that really like just stuck out like a sore thumb when we were watching. Me and my wife were watching this season, and I was definitely interested and like invested in what was going to happen and how the show was going to wrap up. But the whole time I was just like, man, this acting is bad, or this scene is cringy, or this is like really hard to watch for a lot of scenes, like most of the scenes. So if that was like a first season and I wasn't super invested in the show, I would have like totally just abandoned the show at that point. I think probably like a few episodes in, we both kind of looked at each other and we were like, is this what we remember watching? Like, this is not good in a lot of ways. So sorry if you really loved it. Everyone has their own opinion, but that was just me. And I tend to like more serious shows, and I know it's kind of intended for a broader audience, and they probably don't want it to be too serious, but then like try to take some of the sap out of there, like some of the scenes where they're really trying to like tug at your heartstrings. I think they were most effective with that, with actually doing a lot of the flashbacks, because it felt way more real and way more personal. It's like, oh yeah, these kids have grown up on the show, like along with the characters themselves, and that was a little stronger. Like anytime they did a flashback like that, I was like, okay, that's pretty good. But like I don't want to ruin anything, but I don't think it ruins anything, but like the wrap-up scenes at the end, I was like, they could have done without these for sure. Those were really, really hard to watch, and maybe you love that part, but yeah, not for me. I don't think they really earned a lot of those scenes and a lot of the feelings they were trying to evoke. I don't know how we got there. Oh well, Barb the minifigure. That's how we got there. So Barb the minifigure, I sold her for a good chunk of change. She's not cheap. She wasn't cheap when I bought her, but I did make a little bit of money off of her, so that felt good to leave on a high note with her. And there we go. And now I'm just kind of looking at some of the other sets that are sitting really nice in the market. I basically like went on Brickset and I looked at my collection, and I took everything. I tried to grab everything that was, above like $30. I could get $30 for it, and just like assessed, like, man, do I really want this like Scooby-Doo set? That's like, man, those sets are crazy. The Scooby-Doo sets. Like the Mystery Machine, like I have that, and like used, I think it's like over $100 it's selling for, and I'm just like, yeah, I could do without this, and I could, I'd much rather have either a different set or just like, go have fun with my kids somewhere and have fun, so I'm looking at stuff like that, and that's kind of where like I'm feeling that way personally about Lego at the moment. Like I still obviously love it. Like, look, you guys know I love Lego. It's a big part of my life. It's a big part of my kids' life. It's something we do together. I imagine it's going to be something I do lifelong. But just to the extent that Lego, I don't know if they're doing this intentionally or they're just reacting to the market, like how much they leaned into the adult market, and they're just like, here you go, here's this thing, here's that thing, here's everything under the sun, like you got to react to this, you got to think about purchasing it. Like it's almost like punishment in a way. I don't know, like it's a stupid way to think about it, but like when they do it so relentlessly, you're just like, God, who is some of this stuff for? And like who really has all the space and money to buy all this? And I know it's like, there's millions and millions, well, billions of people in the world, so it's not for everybody. But there's only so many collectors of Lego. There's only so many collectors. There's only so many parents and kids that like Lego. So like, there's a finite market for this stuff, but they just keep pumping more and more and more into it, and it's more expensive every year. And I feel like that's what a lot of people feel like when they feel like, oh my gosh, like Lego is just so unattainable, like so expensive. This is probably a more interesting side to look at. I'll kind of keep that open if you guys want to look at that and try to discern what's in here. It's just like, man, all kinds of random sets, minifig heads. I don't really know if it's the best way to do this, but it's just the system that I cooked up for now. Anyway, just trying to keep up with like the release cycles, and like, so like for someone like me, I've always been interested in like collecting a line and collecting a series and trying to like even like a theme at like at some points I'm like, not anymore, but I used to be like, oh, it'd be great to like get this entire theme, like get the 5 sets from the theme that they're going to release, and then like 6 years will go by and they won't release any sets from that theme, and like those days are gone. Like everything, I'm like looking all around, this goes right here. yeah, those days are like seemingly gone, except for like, I feel like Scooby-Doo was the one exception, like a theme like that. That's exactly what I mean. I think like the most expensive set at the time was like $100 for the big castle, and then it was like a $30 Mystery Machine, a $10 Scooby and Shaggy set. You know, it was very attainable. Still, you know, I'm sure for some people like out of their price range, but for me at the time, and even now, like if my kids were very into Scooby-Doo, that's like, okay, that's nice. I can do that. I can definitely attain that full collection. I can get, and that one they broke up the gang like throughout all the sets. So if you wanted the full gang, it's like you got to get all the sets. You know, and they do that in a ton of series. Like I'm thinking like the latest, like Animal Crossing is a little different. Maybe I can't think of like a great series off the top of my head, but they don't really do that anymore. It's either like a huge made-for-adult set, you know, like the latest Stranger Things set's a great example of that, where it's like, yeah, let's just have like a $350 price point and just box most people out of this market who probably would have bought like a, I don't know, like what Stranger Things set for like mass market, like really made for kids, maybe $50. Like if they could have hit that price point and given you a couple figures, and then maybe they release another set that's got a couple more figures, you know, and they could have got away with something like that. But they don't really do that anymore, not much, unless it's their homegrown stuff. They still tend to do that, but I forget how I got down this rabbit hole, but I was talking about investing and getting out of it. I just like the releases. That's what I was talking about, the releases and how much, and it's just too much. So I've been feeling that for a while, just like it's too much. It's not, it kind of turns you off from collecting, or at least it makes you reevaluate, like, what am I collecting? Is it too much I'm collecting? How can I really keep up with this? And yeah, it just had me thinking, what is the most important stuff that I really want to collect? Like, what actually brings me the most joy, rather than trying to like, oh, this is just kind of interesting and it's something that might be valuable in the long run. So there was like all these different angles that I used to evaluate a set and whether I'd buy it or not. So like, was it a good investment? And then it'd be like, okay, that goes into one category. So that category is kind of gone for me now. Just like, I might get back into it when my kids are older, and if the market kind of, you know, kicks back in a year or kind of sticks around, I don't know. So I have more thoughts on the market overall and what I think is going to happen there. But I don't know. So that was one angle that I came at it from. And then the other was just like, oh, like this is something that's mildly interesting to me. I don't really want to miss out on it. And that would be like, you know, a Scooby-Doo, or just because like, oh man, they're doing Scooby-Doo. They haven't done Scooby-Doo. I don't know if they're going to do it again. It'd be kind of cool to get the sets from that standpoint. And that stuff is where I'm like, if my kids aren't into it and I'm not that into it, like it's not coming in the house. Like forget it. We've got enough. So that's really dialed me in on like just a very, very few lines that I'm actually collecting. And even some stuff that I'm just passing on. I'm just like, this is cool. This would fit the bill. Like I like it. And it's usually like, this is something that I like is something that's easy to say no to now. If my kids like it, it's really challenging for me to say no to, but I can say no to more stuff, I guess is the way to put that. So I've definitely like, I'm cutting back majorly on my Lego spending. And like even last year, like I don't even want to admit to some of the years like what I spent on Lego and various things I was either collecting or, you know, investing in. And now it's like, you know, it's most of it goes to my kids, and you know, the little bit that's left over for me, it's you know, it's peanuts compared to what I used to spend. So I just think a lot of people, you know, that's me personally and where I am in my life, and I just think a lot of people are going through that at the same time. Like a lot of the millennial generation, at least, you know, I'm going to speak for the U.S., but I think it's pretty global, I would imagine. You know, there's this adult fan community that's growing up, and they've got kids, and they've got more responsibility, and they've got to pay for stuff, and you know, they're just like the priorities change. And I think that's, at least that's happening for me in my personal world. I think it's happening just naturally. This one. So I have to imagine that a lot of other people are going through that same thing, who are kind of like downsizing on their Lego and everything. So that's like another impact on the market. And then I think just all this like geopolitical tension, depending on what side you land on it, whether you think one country's doing the right thing or the wrong thing, whatever. Like it's a tense time. I don't think anyone can ignore that. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things happening. I think more than any regular period, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think eventually most people will react to that in like just the uncertainty in a negative way, because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know how to like make investments. And I think you're going to see a shock to the market at some point, or some kind of correction. And this is like, you know, I could be wrong for sure. This is more just like a gut feeling and the news that I read and the things that I think, but I really, really do think that there's a shift. And I've already kind of seen it in the Lego aftermarket. Like stuff doesn't sell as quickly. you don't see the kind of prices that you saw before. There's just like such a volume to keep up with. Like I really just think there's this like bubble, not so much in the aftermarket, and I think it's going to impact the aftermarket, but I just think like Lego's portfolio has become too large for their own good. Like I just don't think that there's enough of a market there long term for them to succeed in creating just the copious amount of stuff that all the product they put out there. It's just so much product every year, and it keeps getting larger and larger. Like if you go through Brickset and you just go back to like 2010, the number of sets that were over $200, it's like minor. It's like maybe 5, if that. I was just looking at it the other day, but I'd have to look again exactly what it is. And today it's like over $200, and I know like inflation and everything, but I'm talking like there's like $500 sets, $600, $1,000 sets. Like it has just gone up like I think tenfold. Like I think there's like 20 sets, or like not 50 sets, but I think there's like 3 sets back in 2010. Like don't quote me, but like around 3 sets, and it's like now 30. There's 30 sets, and they're all like hitting, here's Lord of the Rings, like let me get you right where you want to get your stuff, like Lord of the Rings fans, but like it's $300, $400, and here's the next one next year. Like it's like I said, like it's almost this punishment. like are you gonna buy it? Like it's almost like a taunt. We should put it that way. Like it's not a punishment, but like a taunt. Like are you silly, you silly investor, are you gonna buy this like when you can't even afford this, whether you can afford it or like no one needs it, you don't need it, but it's just like it scratches that itch of like, oh, I really like that thing and that'd be fun to put together. I probably sound so negative on this, but these are just like kind of all the feelings I'm feeling, and then just all the macroeconomic stuff on top of it, and where markets are, and just like especially in the U.S., like people feel stretched as it is with the prices, with inflation from 2020 inflation rise that hasn't really petered out too much, and definitely for me and most people I know, it's well, one, it's like harder to keep a job, especially in like the white collar world, and then if you have a job, your salary's not going up as quickly as all the inflation, so you start to get squeezed. You feel the squeeze, and one of the first areas that you're gonna kind of say goodbye to is your hobbies. You're not gonna, like, if you gotta choose between rent or your mortgage and your hobby. I'm pretty sure you're gonna choose your mortgage if like you gotta have a brain. So that's where I just think like there's a couple forces that are at play. It's the rising generation. It's this like market that Lego used to count on and was kind of like, hey, I mean, these guys are just like continuing to buy, like just pump out more stuff. Like they're growing older, they're reaching middle age, and they're starting to pull back a little bit, just like, because they have families and now they have more responsibility and they got to spend less. And then you've got the compounding factor of, just a bunch of stuff in the market. It's harder to keep up with. And finally, like just all the geopolitical stuff and markets and inflation and everything, and then you throw the smart brick stuff on top of it, and you're just like, man, I don't feel good for them. I don't feel good for them. They're like very successful company, of course, and would be really. I mean, they were on the brink of bankruptcy at one point. So I'm not gonna say it's impossible. It'd be really shocking to see them fall to that depth at this stage, and I'm not saying that's gonna happen to them anytime soon, but I just really feel like they have to pivot in a hard way, or they're going to be forced to put out less product, focus on core lines, focus on just like simple sets for kids and the family, just kind of get back to basics. I could be wrong, but this is kind of my gut of what's going to happen to them, and I think that extends to the aftermarket. That's kind of like where I was going with all of it. Is like Lego as a company is going to have to react to all that, and then also just Lego as a brand is everyone will react. So stuff that was sitting in the aftermarket that was really expensive, like I can start to see some of that stuff, come down and be a little less crazy. And as people, their budgets get tighter, like me and myself, what I'm doing right now, I'm putting stuff up on eBay, and like I'm trying to get rid of it kind of quick, so I'm undercutting everybody I can see on eBay, which brings down the overall price of the item, and you can just see prices start to fall on some of this stuff. So I don't know, I just think that's going to compound some. I'll say I'm trying to get a little bit ahead of it. It's that thought, and I could be, again, dead wrong, but it's just like this nagging feeling, I guess. And I tend to like to follow my gut when I feel strongly about it. So I am starting to list, and it's not a ton of stuff. I think I'm going to list like maybe like 10 to 20 sets that I'm going to get rid of out of my, like, I probably have like, little sets, but like probably 100 sets, easily 100 sets in my full collection of like, little to large. I do collect a lot of little sets, and I'm including like, collectible minifigure series and that kind of stuff. But I'm going to start looking at offloading more and more, especially as like my kids get a little older, and I can really tell like, oh, they are like in no way going to be interested in this thing that I thought they might be interested in. So it's better off that I just like get rid of it now before it's just collecting dust, or that was kind of a trap that I fell into early on when I was having kids, and even before I had kids, just like thinking like, oh well, I could you know, I don't really love, I can't even think of a good example. Scooby-Doo, but like take Transformers for example. It's like, oh, these are just cool. Like, I'm not that into Transformers, but like maybe my kid will be into Transformers. So maybe like I'll grab. Actually, a great example is the vehicles line. My boys do love vehicles, but they've tried to play with you know, the larger. And I'm talking about like the VW bus and the Beetle and everything. Like I have like almost that whole series, and a lot of them are still in boxes. And just like, I don't know. I'm considering getting rid of them because, like, yes, my boys would like them and maybe one day enjoy putting them together, but like we don't need it. We don't need it. We already have so much, and they much more enjoy just playing with the small cars. Like, they're a lot more manageable and easy to like fix when they fall apart and everything. But and, you know, I say all that, and I'm still like kind of on the fence about whether I'm totally going to get rid of all of them. I think I'll keep some that I tend to like the VW bus. Some more of the iconic cars. I know they're all like supposedly iconic, but I think some are a little more iconic than others. But so I'll kind of stick with those for now. But you know, as they get older and they really like fall out of love with cars, and they're not really showing an interest in Lego, then I'll be like, all right, these are much easier to get rid of, because those are like ones that I like cars. I'm not like a car guy at all, so they are much more like, oh, you know, my boys kind of like cars. Maybe they'll like these when they get older. Kind of investments, not investments, but just part of the collection. All right, I am starting to lose my voice. I'm gonna switch over and just try to get more of this done. I'm going kind of slow because I'm talking a lot, so I'm gonna shut this off for now. Hopefully you like this video format and style. If you do, just let me know. You give it a thumbs up. That's one way of telling me. Comment like, hey, this is good, or like, I hate the angle, or I hate the shot. Like, whatever you can say. I want to do more of these, so yeah, let me know if this is interesting at all and just kind of like rambling off the top of my head. This is kind of the stuff that we don't really have time to talk about on the podcast, so I wanted to do this video format, try to do these like semi-weekly, and just talk about the latest news in Lego, give you my thoughts, and either be doing like a build of some sort like I started with, or you know, it's probably gonna be a lot of sorting. That's most of my Lego time at night is spent sorting. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.